Pag Pinoy mahilig sa adobo at maraming versions ng adobo all over the country. Pero ituturo ko sa inyo ngayon paano ako gumawa. So personal version ko to ng classic chicken pork adobo.
Simple, luto na, ha.
So gagawa tayo ng classic chicken pork adobo. Yung alam natin na may soy sauce at suka. Ang gamit ko dito ay pork belly. Pwede din gumamit ng kasim. At importante sa ating pork ay may layers of fat. No? Hindi naman siya puro taba, pero at least may layers of fat kasi that gives the flavor to adobo. And also, another important thing is, sana naman, or the best is that ang adobo natin may balat. Why? Because the skin of the pork has collagen and it thickens the sauce. So, tumutulong din yung balat ng baboy na mag-thicken ng sauce natin. Our chicken also, I'm using leg quarters. So, I divided into two, separate the drumstick and the thigh. No? So, ang ginawa ko dito, inasinan ko na siya earlier. So, rock salt ang gamit ko, inasinan ko siya at least an hour ahead of cooking. So, sisimulan ko yung ating adobo. So, simulan natin. So, I just heat up a pan. And we just add oil, allow it to heat up, and we will saute our garlic. Yung gamit ko dito ay halos isang buong ulo, 1 head of garlic, and I just smash it. Isasama ko yung kanyang balat. No? So I want it to look very rustic kasi. So ayaw ko yung sobrang refined, especially pag lutong bahay. Gusto ko parang luto talaga ng bahay. Yan. So I just saute the garlic to infuse, no, to perfume our adobo. So, bakit nagtataka kayo na bakit sinasama ko yung balat? Sinasama ko yung balat talaga kasi may aroma din yung balat ng ating garlic. And I add onion. So, I'm using 2 onions. So, isang buong garlic, ulo ng garlic, and 2 sibuyas na pula. Saute it as well. And ilalagay ko na yung aking pork belly. Yung pork belly takes longer to cook, kaya inuuna ko talaga siya. Yan. I'll saute my pork belly as well. Yan, very chunky. Tingnan mo, hindi siya maliliit na pieces yung aking pork belly. And my chicken also, large pieces. Parang cut ng fried chicken yung ginagawa ko sa aking chicken. And I will just add our vinegar. Half a cup of vinegar. Just regular white vinegar. Half a cup of soy sauce. So, equal parts yung preference ko. Equal parts of soy sauce and vinegar. Yan. Add my soy sauce. And I add 1 1/2 to 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Why? Ayaw kong matamis pero gusto kong mag-balance yung flavors. So I just add sugar. Lalagyan ko siya ng dahon ng laurel. Around 5 to 6 pieces. And paminta. Very important yung paminta. So, yung gamit ko, 2 versions, 2 preparations ng paminta. Gusto ko makita ko yung pamintang buo. So, meron akong 1 teaspoon of whole peppercorns. And 1 teaspoon of crack. So, durog siya, hindi siya fino, durog lang siya. To get that peppery flavor into our adobo. And lastly, I add half a cup of water. Yan. Hindi ko na siya haluin. I'll just let it simmer for around 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes before adding our chicken. So, after cooking for around, mga 12 minutes to na pinakuluan ko yung pork. Hindi ko pa hinalo kasi sabi nga nila sa ating mga elders na wag daw haluin yung suka. Pero totoo ba yon? Actually, wala na siyang impact sa totoo lang kasi a lot of the vinegars that are sold are already pasteurized. So meaning, bago siya nilagay sa mga bote at binibenta, it's already sterilized. No? Pinakuluan na siya at high temperature para wala na siyang bacteria and maging stable yung product. So, if you mix it or not mix it, wala na siyang impact. Look at that. Anong ginawa ko? Binigyan ko ng head time yung ating pork to simmer before the chicken. Kasi kung sinabay ko siya, nadudurog na yung chicken, pero yung pork natin, matigas pa. So, now, it's already cooked around close to 15 minutes yung ating pork. Pwede ko na idagdag yung ating chicken. So, look at that, malalaki yung cuts ng chicken ko. I add it into the adobo. na-bathe yung ating chicken with our adobo sauce. Yan. And we cook it for another 30 minutes. And titignan natin midway yung cooking natin before it's fully cooked. Sisilipin natin yung ating adobo. Look at that. If you notice sa kanina, parang konti yung sabaw niya. Ngayon dumami because the natural juices of the pork and chicken are now released as it cooks. So, kaya dumadami yung sauce niya. But, we also want this to reduce further. So, halfway cooked na siya. Yan. So, cover natin ulit. Diba? Pahinaan natin yung apoy ng konti. We put it in medium, low medium, and we continue to cook, simmer. And let's check if our adobo is done. Wow! Look at that. It's a beauty. And one more tip, pag nagluluto ka ng adobo ay huwag niyong kalimutan na magsaing kasi baka takam na kayong kumain pero wala pa rin tayong kanin. So, look at that. The sauce has already thickened. So, kung gusto niyo mas tuyo, you can just continue to cook your adobo. And, we're ready to plate. Yan, kakain na ako. And ang adobo even becomes more tastier if you eat it a day after. Pero ang hirap kasi pumigil ng gana natin pag adobo na yung ulam. Here it is, my classic chicken pork adobo. Simple! Nagustuhan niyo ba ang video na to? Please share para lalong dumami ang ating mga kasimple. And don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram accounts.